How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your January 2019 horoscope for Leo. How's it going, my little lions? This month is going to be quite constructive for you guys. It's going to... this isn't going to just be fun and games. Mars is going to be in Aries this whole month, and Venus and Jupiter are going to be in Sagittarius. So this is trining your sun, or it's trining your ascendant. So there is going to be a lot of positive energy, but a lot of this Capricorn stuff that's going on in your guys' 6th house is going to be very prevalent for the whole month. So let's just get into it, I guess. To start off the month, on January 1st, we have Mars going into Aries. So for the past couple weeks, you've had Mars in Pisces in your 8th house where it's been sluggish, it's been weird. But as Mars goes into your 9th house, into its domicile, its home, where Mars can really do like damage, where Mars can really do what he wants to do, Mars is going through your 9th house of far distance travel, spirituality, religion, higher education, your beliefs, your dreams, or publishing. I'm just listing off 9th house things. As Mars goes into this area and it's going to be trining your ascendant, it's in this, fire sign, I think you guys are going to feel very charged up with what your guys' beliefs are, but where Mars is also representative of a lot of problems, he deals with anger, he deals with aggression, he deals with severing and cutting and inflammation and things like that. And as Mars goes into your 9th house, I think this is going to just light up this part of your chart in a very dynamic way, in a both exciting and fun and adventurous way, where you're really starting to achieve, not necessarily your, I don't want to say like your goals or your dreams, but it's more as if Mars in your 9th house is like enacting on its beliefs and taking initiative on what it wants to seek, what it wants to learn and understand, and it's fortifying that in a sense. Also, on January 1st, we have Saturn, the Sun conjoining Saturn, I should say. As the Sun hits Saturn, and this is happening in your guys' 6th house, this is going to bring a lot of serious energy to you guys for the first of the month to kind of kick off the new year. Saturn, is all about restrictions and limits and discipline and kind of getting things together. He's in Capricorn, he's in his home sign, he's out of shadow now, he's flying forward in Capricorn, and the Sun hitting Saturn is just kind of resetting all of that energy and kind of clearing out a new path for Saturn to really start doing some work on. And he's in your guys' 6th house, which is about your routines, your habits, your day-to-day events. It has to do with your health, has to do with your sense of service and your employment. It also is really notorious for things, breaking down, things not working out, things kind of falling apart. And so with Saturn being in your guys' 6th house, where, it's really about time to focus on your guys' habits, get together your health, get together, what are you doing? What is your service that you are providing? As the Sun hits Saturn, this is going to feel... it's going to feel very limiting, like that you need to make some changes and integration into your day-to-day habits, but it's just going to reset that cycle of Saturn's going through your 6th house. They're going to have some health problems. You're going to have some problems with work. You're going to have some problems, with your, your routine and your habits and things like that. And as the Sun hits it, I think this is just going to be basically kind of like, all right, this is starting to become a theme again. This is feeling limiting. This is feeling constraining, but where do you need to discipline yourself on when it comes to being more, I shouldn't say being more Capricorn, but taking that Saturn energy and actually applying it every single day and disciplining yourself with better habits and better healthy, choices and things like that. So that's basically kicking off the new year. So I feel like that's also going to be a big theme, but we have a lot to talk about with Capricorn stuff, so we're not even done with it. January 5th, a couple days later, we have the new moon, and it's a solar eclipse in Capricorn. And so this is happening in your guys' 6th house. So after the Sun-Saturn conjunction, where it can feel very limiting and constraining, yet also very much like ready to take it on, or knowing what weight you're taking on, knowing what challenges you're taking on, this new moon and this eclipse is definitely kind of initiating that rolling out. This new moon is really resetting those intentions and being more disciplined and setting more focused and being more, I guess, efficient with things. Having things, being disciplined, being mature about how you handle this area of your life. And this is an eclipse. This is a big exclamation point. And January 5th as well, Mercury goes into Capricorn. So as this eclipse happens and Mercury enters Capricorn, I think a lot of the focus is going to be on your day-to-day things, what your, what your work is like, what you're kind of doing every day, your health maybe, it could be doing something with your pets too. The 6th house is apparently, ruled by pets, which just blows my mind. But Anyway, this new moon is really just kind of setting in those new intentions and kind of really bringing a big light to like, hey, maybe it's time to start implementing better habits. So then on January 7th, we have Venus entering Sagittarius, and we also have Uranus going direct. So this is going to be like, poof, with you guys being Leo suns or risings, you know, Venus is now in your guys' 5th house if you're Leo rising, and Venus is all about, you know, value. She's all about connection. She's all about creation. She's all about bringing together, and she's all about enjoying and experiencing and loving it. And she's going into your 5th house. And this is of love. This is of romance. This is of children. This is of, you know, art and creativity and really, you know, passionate things for yourself. And as Venus comes into this area, I think this is going to be a big time of really exploring in depth of expressing that value and that artistic sense of yourself, and not just the artistic sense too, because, you know, not everyone really has that, but just really enjoying what you want to create and really expressing that and going down that path. You know, you may have hobbies, you know, everyone has a hobby, everyone has a special interest, and I think Venus being in this area is just really going to bring these things that really do bring you joy, and Venus is kind of like bringing more joy out of it. She's in Sagittarius, where something new may come along, something, you know, out of nowhere that you might not have seen. You may go somewhere and experience something new that you didn't know that you liked before. Venus is going to be great in Sagittarius, and we have a lot more to talk about that. But Uranus also goes direct in your 9th house. Uranus has been retrograde in your 9th house in Aries for just a little while, and as he goes direct, I think Uranus is, you know, how he's known for being explosive, you know, extreme ups and downs. I think this is really when this is going to manifest, and this is going to be a lot of breakthrough opportunities. The only reason I say that is that this is your 9th house that we're talking about. This is your sense of beliefs. This is your sense of understanding. This is your sense of what you make of it all. And as Uranus is in that 9th house, I think this is going to be kind of like that, like, mind-blown time where you go like, wow, I didn't see things this way. I didn't know that this was possible. Something just kind of came up in this way, and it's going to feel very exciting. I mean, it's trining your sun or it's trining your ascendant. A lot of good positive energy right here where you're going to get a lot of explosive insights. Then moving forward, on January 11th, we have Mercury conjoining Saturn. So, sure, we got all this positive stuff going on, but as Mercury hits Saturn, where Mercury is basically communicating the message of Saturn, Saturn's like, you need to get your shit together. What are you doing every single day? What are your habits like? Where do you need to concentrate, and where do you need to focus and bring together in a very simple way, like what you're doing every day? Like, do you have a job? What are your habits like every single day? And as Mercury hits that, that's going to be kind of more of a mentally overwhelming sense of like constriction, you know, limitations. But the biggest thing is, as Mercury hits Saturn, you've got to realize the discipline that it takes to make these huge changes. These aren't, you know, Mercury or Venus changes. These are Saturn changes. Like, you actually have to do the work. And you've got to, and this is in your 6th house, you've got to apply it every single day. You've got to put on the right mindset for it. And this is Capricorn, and this is Mercury. This is like, just get it done. Just go through it. Just, you know, get it out of the way. You just got to be able to focus, do what needs to be done efficiently and effectively, and implement a more sustainable, a more efficient, a more sturdier framework into your day-to-day life. So that's going to be a pretty big thing. And then a couple days later, on January 16th, we have the sun hitting the south node. And I didn't talk about this with the eclipse, but the south node is representative of, you know, our past, where we've come from, what we're naturally good at. And a lot of the times we have to look at our past. A lot of the times we have to learn from our past and utilize what we've learned there in order to implement it now. And this is going to be a big time, is when the sun hits the south node of like, okay, you know, what has came up for you in the past in this area? What problems have you seen in the past in this area, and where can you learn from those experiences, and how can you integrate that into your time right now? So that is going to be a really big deal as the sun hits the south node. Hold on, I need a little water. Anyway, then on January 18th, this is kind of like the second half of the month. That first half of the month is one part, and then we have this part of the month, and that kind of starts on January 18th when we have Venus trining Mars. And so as Mars is going through your 9th house, as you're enacting on those beliefs, and you're starting to really see a lot of the power that you really have, also while being able to, you know, make the changes that you need to in your belief systems, and, you know, where your direction ultimately is going, because Mars in Aries is like, that doesn't work, I don't want to do that anymore, I'm going to focus on what works. That's going to be really positive. But as Venus trines Mars, it's kind of like Venus is really happy in the 5th house. she wants to express, she wants to experience, she wants to feel, she wants to love, and she wants to indulge. And as it trines Mars, I think this is going to be a really big time of notice what your beliefs are. Notice how if you enact on those, that you can really enjoy those for what they are. And once you start really enacting on those, more Aries type, Mars type, beliefs of like, hey, you can do it. You can actually physically do it and conquer it. And if you have the belief system for it, you just got to do it. I think with this trining Venus being in Sagittarius, I think this is going to give you a whole new world of experience. And I really think this is going to open up a big door of understanding yourself and your wants and your capabilities in a whole new way. So that is really fucking cool. Anyway, then we have the big day in astrology for January, and that is January 20th. We have the sun entering Aquarius, the moon entering Leo. We have the full moon in Leo at 0 degrees. It is an eclipse. It is a total lunar eclipse, even though the south node is in Cancer. It's in your first house. It's in your 7th house. But we also have Mars squaring Saturn on this day as well. And as the sun goes into Aquarius, where the theme is relationships, this is Aquarius, where this is a little bit, Saturn feeling of like outcasted and alienated, but it really is about how you integrate yourself and how people integrate themselves with you in relationships and how you want to be treated, how you want to be viewed. And as this full moon in Leo happens, as this is an eclipse, this is the one last bang of eclipses that we have in Leo and Aquarius. And this moon is going to be in Leo in your first house, where it is really just about how do you integrate the self-worth, the self-love, the power, the great things that you actually have with other people. And this is really realizing a lot of that self-love, a lot of that self-power, and having that confidence to truly, I don't want to say be yourself, but it's the first house, and this is Leo. Like, you know what I'm talking about here. Like, I'm not speaking a foreign language. Like, really feeling that power, feeling that confidence, and feeling that integrity of being in line with like that your true self, like your authentic self. And as the sun goes into Aquarius, this is about integrating yourself in relationships on that new level, on that higher level. You're going to be feeling high. So as Mars squares Saturn though on this day, where Saturn's in Capricorn in your 6th and Mars is in Aries in your 9th, this is where it's going to become challenging, because Saturn is kind of making you like, well, you've got to make sure you do this every single day. Like, make sure your things are in order. Don't go too crazy with things. What are the problems here? What are the problems there? And as Mars is in your 9th house, where Mars can have, you could be having a challenging time with your beliefs. You could be feeling very frustrated. And as Mars squares Saturn, it's kind of like, at the end of the day, if what you want to do is not in accordance with your beliefs, what habits about your mindset do you have to change every single day? Like, basically, the only two ways to change a belief about yourself is either through emotional experience that you're like invested in, like a traumatic experience, which doesn't really happen a whole lot. But the other way is through every single day habits. And I think Mars in Aries in your 9th house is really trying to achieve something that it doesn't fully believe yet. And as it squares Saturn, Saturn in your 6th house is asking you if you want that, you've got to integrate that into your every single day life, and you have to believe it, like fake it till you make it type stuff. So that's going to be a really, really big deal for you guys on that day. And I think when the full moon in Leo happens, it comes back down to like, you can fucking do it. Like, don't hold yourself back. Like, don't listen to the universe when it tells you no. Like, if it's trying to hold you back, like, keep pushing. And I don't mean to say it in like, don't like fight the resistance type deal, but like, sometimes things you just need to break through your own things in order for those rewards to come in. And so I think that's going to be the big message for January 20th for you guys. But then we get into the last couple days of January. And on January 21st, we have Venus conjoining Jupiter in Sagittarius. This is like, don't get pregnant. Don't get pregnant. That's going to be some baby making stuff right there for sure, if you feel like that. And I don't just mean, it's only for baby making stuff. Like, just the idea of that, like, good sex, like, good times, enjoying things. You're doing something new. You're exploring something you've always wanted to. This is Jupiter in Sag, and this is Venus in Sag in your 5th house. It's like you're actually enjoying something new that you've been wanting to experience, and it's actually rewarding. And so I do think that's going to be very powerful, especially because Mercury's going to be on the South Node on the same day too. And as we were talking about with the sun on the South Node being like, what did you learn in the past? What did you, how do you integrate that now? Mercury is understanding that. Mercury is communicating that message of, okay, you know, what did this look like in the past? How is this going to be implemented now? And I think as Venus and Jupiter conjoin in your 5th house, where this is going to feel very exciting, I think this is going to give you the confidence and more of the excitement that you need in order to really go, okay, let me take this lesson that I learned and actually implement it now. Like, this is what it looks like implemented in my life, and I did it this time, it's going to work again this time. It's like, you know, you never really have well, no, never mind. I'm not even going to say that. Anyway, after that, on January 23rd, we have Mercury entering Aquarius into your 7th house, where this has to do with, you know, integration of communication and relationships, you know, finding the right tweaks and turns that are going to work and, you know, create the systematic, you know, functioning way of communicating relationships. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, because in 2 days after that, on January 25th, Mars will also trine Jupiter. So Jupiter's in your 5th house, again, having the time of his life. And he's trining Mars, where Mars, again, he's, you know, challenging belief systems, trying to achieve something that's a little bit out of reach sometimes. Jupiter is trining Mars, where it's like, hey, like, if you really want it, that possibility's out there and you have the energy to obtain it. Again, you just have to believe in it. But this isn't, you know, Saturn square Mars, where Saturn's like, if you fucking want it, you gotta fucking believe it and you gotta work for it. Like, Jupiter's like, hey, dude, like, you can do it, like, go for it. Like, he's supporting you. He's like, you know, like, if you watch Big Mouth, he's like the Nathan's dad, like, super positive, super, like, just ready to go. And I do think that's going to be a really big deal for you guys as you move ahead. But then on the last day, or not the last day of January, but the last big thing on January 29th is the Mercury Sun cazimi at 8 degrees of Aquarius. And this is happening in your 7th house. And as, you know, Mercury goes through the beams of the sun and conjoins the sun, I think this is really understanding how to communicate more effectively in relationships and integrating more of these positive qualities into that communication, not being so, you know, sometimes you could be reserved, sometimes you could be shy, sometimes you don't necessarily allow yourself to be a Leo sun or Leo rising sometimes. And I think this Mercury conjunction to the sun in Aquarius in your 7th house is really like, it's time to communicate these things. It's time to integrate this in a way that works. It's not about being boastful and loud, and it's also not about, you know, not roaring, you know, not speaking your voice, not speaking your truth. But as Mercury hits the sun, I think this is going to be the time where you really get the right, you know, combination down of how to communicate to people and be integrous with yourself, but also find a way that really find a way to really effectively communicate. So with that being said, that's your January for 2019. I do think a lot of the other signs got it way harder than you guys, so be fucking thankful. I've cussed a lot in this one, but you guys don't care. Thank you guys anyway so much for watching and sharing and liking and commenting and subscribing, and I'll be seeing you guys for next month.